When Matt Rhule was announced as the Huskers' new head coach, I heard a lot of people talk about what a bad hire this was. What has Matt Rhule done? And I don't know if people just didn't realize what he's done, but I'm going to tell you why Matt Rhule is made for college football and why Matt Rhule will succeed at Nebraska. One, you got to think about this. College football is all about evaluating 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. Period. Coaches that thrive in evaluating, that could see the writing on the wall that others don't see and can develop them at a high level, these are the coaches you see win year in and year out. Coaches like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, or William Christopher Sweeney, aka known as Dabo. These are three coaches that know how to develop players, that are good communicators, and can year in and year out develop the players. Now, it helps when you win and then you start getting the top players in the country. But at one time, even Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia at one time were struggling. And so they had to find players at the beginning and develop players and start winning before they started getting these elite players. This is why you see coaches and teams win every year. Rhule is one of these coaches and could be one of the best of this group. But what hurts Rhule and why you haven't seen him in the light as Kirby Smart or Nick Saban is only one thing: longevity, team longevity. The one thing that others have over Rhule is that Rhule doesn't stay at the program long enough. Where Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, Dabo Sweeney, they do it year in and year out. They've stayed where they're at, and they have now built that reputation. For Rhule has stayed 2 to 3 years, and then he's moved on. So basically starting over. So no one sees him in the same light. But I'm here to explain how and why Matt Rhule will not only succeed at Nebraska, but will have them up with Michigan and Ohio State in less than 5 years. And it wouldn't even surprise me if it was less than 3 years. So let's get in this video and let me explain why I know and feel Matt Rhule will succeed at Nebraska. Now, like I said before, college football is about evaluating and developing these young players. And that's why Matt Rhule, you're seeing Matt Rhule, yes, he's using the transfer portal, but once he gets into this, you're going to probably see his most transfers into the program probably this year that you just saw. Just because it's perfect for a now thing. But Matt Rhule is a developer. He knows how to find these young men, the ones that the others kind of overlook, and he knows how to develop them. So the first thing why he will succeed is Matt Rhule knows what he wants, what he's looking for, and how to communicate it to the player. Not only to the player, but to convince that player it's the right thing. When he was hired at Nebraska in the late November, almost no one on the team left for the transfer portal when he was hired. That is unheard of, considering Nebraska fired their coach back early in the season. Then Mickey Joseph took over, which most players loved. And then they didn't hire Mickey Joseph. They hired Matt Rhule. And yet Rhule still got them. He went in, talked to the team. When he was done talking to the team, he convinced almost every player to stay and ride it out through the spring. And they all did it. And no other coach has ever done that, especially in this N.I.L. transfer portal world we live in right now, where anyone and everyone can just get up and leave at any time and not have consequences of leaving. The second thing, Rhule knows how to find that diamond in the rough. Rhule doesn't care about 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, doesn't care about these ranking sites that you see. Everybody keeps forgetting these ranking sites that everybody takes to the bank and said, well, he's only a 3-star. These are someone who hasn't coached in the college football ranks mostly. They're usually writers and media that give them a ranking, and they're just like anyone else. They can make mistakes. And when you start getting at thousands of players, when you start getting down below the top elite players in high school, it's a crapshoot of really knowing how well they're going to do or how well they really are. Rhule has a way of finding that player that no one has seen, or no one didn't like his size or maybe his hands. He's a master at evaluating high school players based on what he needs and what he's looking for in a player, and then get them to the next level. Well, probably the next 2 levels. Rhule is old school. He doesn't care about star rankings. Like I said, he doesn't care about what these overrated websites think of what every player in high school are ranked at. He sets his own rule. Like I said, he puts the H in Rhule. You will see Matt Rhule run these football camps that you saw he run in June. And he's going to do this year in and year out. He's going to do it every year. And not only for the players that he's looking for that current recruiting season, but for future players that are 2 or 3 years from graduating. Because of this, these kids will remember who gave them that advice back in high school when they were a freshman that helped them succeed when they graduate. Now, of course, he will not get them all, but I bet you that will be enough to grab some of these, and some of these probably that will end up being great players. He will grab some of them. It wouldn't surprise me if Rhule was here 2 or 3 years ago. Take Dylan Raiola. If Rhule was here 2 or 3 years ago and he would have been holding these camps, I guarantee you Raiola would have been to probably all these camps, because his father is a big camp, go to these camps, an improved person, but he's a big Husker fan. So he would have went to these. He would have had some great coaching from Rhule. He would have got more insight, and it wouldn't have surprised me if he would have this year committed to the Huskers because of that. Now, no one knows that for sure, but you will see in the near future how well his system works. I mean, just take 6-7 months ago when Rhule first got here. He came in late November, and within the first 2 months brought in a top 25 class for the 2023 season, which is unheard of. And that was with a team that hasn't won more than 4 games since 2016. And now he's picked up his 22nd commitment for his first full recruiting season of 2024, which is now currently ranked 19th and I believe 14th in another poll. And this is before he's even coached one game, before he's even won a game. So what's he going to do when he does win? If you sat down and just listened to Rhule speak, or was able to sit down and talk to him, you would see he loves what he does. He loves developing and evaluating. This is his passion, and you could see it in him. He doesn't bullshit anyone, and he tells you how it is, but he does it in a way that once he's done, you feel like you owe him. He knows how to talk to these young men, and on top of that, he knows how to talk to their parents, and he has great relationships with these young men and their parents, as well as every high school coach, I guarantee, in the country. If they want Rhule's number, they get it. If one of these coaches, and I'm talking about one of these coaches from the smallest school in the most pitiful football state you could find, if they texted Rhule right this minute, I guarantee you Rhule would answer that coach within minutes. He treats everybody the same. He would answer them just like he would the top recruit in the top elite school from Texas or California. That's how Rhule is. That's his demeanor. And it's genuine. And when you talk with him and discuss it, you see it, you know it. College football recruiting is all about communication, period. Well, and winning, but winning will come. And we all saw how he turned two programs in Temple and Baylor into winning programs. And these are two programs that had a history of not winning at all. He has always had to look for that lost player, or I should say that diamond in the rough, as the top recruits just weren't knocking on the door at Baylor and especially at Temple. So he had to go find them players. He had to find that player that maybe someone wasn't looking at or someone didn't see his quality. That's why he holds these camps. He's involved in these camps. He doesn't sit up on the stands. He don't sit up way up there and watch. He's down there with the stopwatch. He's down there bringing a young man over and running drills. He wants to know firsthand what this young man can do. He measures every player that comes in because he doesn't take the word of these sites. So he wants to know, how tall is this young man? How much does he weigh? What can he run? He does this on every player, and he opens these camps up to anyone that wants to come. Any player in the nation that wants to go to these camps can go there and be evaluated. And the good thing about Rhule is he doesn't care what anyone else thinks. If you pass his evaluation, he will offer you a scholarship and he'll do it right there. Doesn't care what anyone else thinks. Rhule had to, with Temple and Baylor, he had to take his evaluations, hold these camps, brought in these players that wanted to be evaluated and evaluate based on his needs, what he was looking for. Then he put these players, once he got them, into a position that they would succeed at a very high level, to the point at sometimes at the highest level where they would end up being drafted in the top first round. And even if they weren't, to a higher level that they succeeded at least in the college level. He knows where they can go, what position they could go at, what they can do, and what is their best and proven position. And he's done this at both them schools. Now, for him to be considered one of these top coaches in college football, he's going to have to do it year in and year out. He's going to have to stay where he's at and do it every year. Not do it for 2 or 3 years, then move on. Meaning starting over every time you go somewhere every 2 or 3 years. So for him to get to be like Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, to be on their level, he's going to have to stay where he's at for 8 or 10 years. That's the only thing I think why people don't really know how good he is. He hasn't done it long enough. He does it at a couple years, then moved on. Did it a couple years, then moved on. And then he went to the NFL. And I know a lot of you going, well, he bombed at the NFL. Some coaches, and Matt is one of them, Matt Rhule is one of them, are evaluators. They're developers of young men. When you're now in the NFL, these are grown men and they already have their ways. There's just some coaches that are better at the college level. And if you don't believe me, go look up Nick Saban's record when he was in the NFL with Miami. It was just as bad as Matt Rhule's. Nick Saban and Matt Rhule are college coaches and shine in the college level, not in the NFL. And there is one more thing that will prove to be in Rhule's favor and give him a boost in winning, and winning now, and that's the transfer portal. Temple went 1-11 their first year, and Baylor, I believe, went 2-10 their first year. But the one thing Rhule has at Nebraska that he didn't have at Temple or Baylor is the transfer portal. So what does he get now in year one? Well, one, his roster that is already here at Nebraska is way above, talent-wise, than both Temple and Baylor. And he grabbed some transfers, which, like I said, this year he needed to fill some few. Nebraska has a lot of question marks. You don't go 4-8 not have question marks, and not all of them can be answered in year one. But he did a good job of grabbing players, some players out of the transfer portal that will help him succeed this first year. But as time goes on and he starts winning, you're going to see Rhule not use the transfer portal as much as you see him probably now. He likes developing the high school level and build them up. He likes building a relationship, and it's not going to surprise me once he's here, you won't see many players run away and transfer from Nebraska. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but Rhule has that relationship. But obviously you're going to get some that are not going to be happy in their playing situation and feel like they could go somewhere else. But Rhule knows how to build relationships. He knows how to do this at a younger level with these young men, and so that's going to make a big difference. But let's think about what Rhule got out of the transfer portal this year. First, he got quarterback Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech. He then grabbed wide receiver Billy Kemp from Virginia. Then fixed up on the line, which we needed help on, which was center Ben Scott from Arizona State. And then the defensive line with Elijah Judy from Texas A&M, along with some outstanding SEC players in defensive end Chief Borders from Florida, and 3 national champions from the Georgia Bulldogs, and MJ Sherman, tight end Eric Gilbert, and offensive tackle Jacob Hood. I'm going to tell you this. Remember this. Losing is a disease, but so is winning. So there is no doubt when you grab players that have won a national championship from Georgia, they know how to win, and they will show their teammates and the rest on this team how to win. Matt Rhule is made for college football, and hopefully he will stay long enough for the rest of the world to see he belongs as one of the top coaches in college football. I believe in 2023, this 2023 team will be a lot better than most of you think and most of these experts think. I feel like he will win probably some games you don't expect him to win, and that's starting to me with Minnesota. And I haven't done a prediction yet, but you kind of got a hint where I'm leading for that Minnesota game. Everyone is underestimating quarterback Jeff Sims from Georgia Tech, and I'll admit I was one of them at the beginning. But I see now what Rhule was looking at and see that Jeff Sims is the perfect choice, what Rhule wants to do this year. But the big key is, can Jeff Sims stay healthy? He kind of was hurt, he kind of has a little history of being hurt. And if he gets hurt this year, then all bets are all off. It's going to be tough. So key is going to be keeping Jeff Sims healthy, along with an improved offensive line. Yes, like I said, the Huskers do have a few question marks, and you don't go 4-8 without them. And it's impossible to solve them all in 1 year. But wait until 2024. The schedule is tough for 2024. I saw the schedule, and it's a tough one. But I bet you Rhule opened some eyes that year. But for 2023, the schedule is a lot easier. And I expect Rhule, probably to me, if I had to guess right now, before I do any of my predictions, I feel like Rhule is probably going to go 7-5 to 9-3, and it wouldn't even surprise me if he won 10 games. Yeah, there's going to be some growing pains because it's year one, but mark my word, Rhule will succeed at Nebraska. Now, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button so others can find this video. And I want to thank everyone for watching and for all your support. Go Big Red.